Welcome to Chris and Walt's Top 10 show, where we count down the top 10 something. I am Walt.
And I'm Chris.
And Chris, what a fantastic time to tell everyone that these videos are brought to us by Ice Collectibles. Please visit icecollectibles.com. It is Canada's best place to sell your collectibles and a fantastic place to buy your collectibles, thanks to our weekly eBay auction. All right, Chris, this one I think is going to be a good one.
Okay, well, then I believe you.
Okay, we are tackling today the top 10 tips for investing in comic books.
Ooh, so I'm going to go unload my bank account right now, and I'm going to count it all out and get it ready to invest all my savings.
Just give it to me. I'll take care of everything else.
Perfect.
Listen, the last 3 years have been tough for the comic book industry, the collecting industry, the COVID era spikes. Everything has been drastically falling. The market correction has happened. There are some books that might still be falling. There are some books, but I think the general consensus is that we're somewhere near the trough.
Right.
So the question is, are there opportunities now to get back into comic book investing?
Right.
And nobody has a crystal ball.
Nope.
Nobody can answer that.
Nope.
Right. But
if only we did, we'd be multi-millionaires.
Yes, we would.
Right.
Yes, we would. And if you and I did, we wouldn't be sharing it here on here.
Come on, might share.
Of course we would.
A little bit, anyways.
Of course we would. All right. So this video is going to outline 10 tips that I believe, if you can tell yourself that you understand and grasp and comprehend these 10 factors, and if you're investing in a comic and you can check off as many of these as you can as understood and applied, then I think that you will be a better comic book investor.
Excellent. Okay.
Right? Okay. So this is an intense video, so stick with it.
Grab some popcorn.
Pour yourself a sarsaparilla.
Cactus juice,
a little bit of carrot juice maybe. And join us for the ride.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so caveat, quick one for the top 10. We're going to consider only graded, and for this video, CGC graded. They're the industry leader. And by investing in graded comics, we are eliminating that discrepancy between a buyer and a seller grading differently, right? CGC is the standard for the industry. Enough people use them as the third-party arbitrator to make the whole thing work.
Right.
So we're going with that.
Okay.
All right. Are we ready to start?
Let's do it.
All right. Okay, number 10, Chris. Avoid being first to market.
Well, don't you want to be the first person to go out and sell your stuff?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Be the first to market selling.
Oh.
Avoid being first to market buying.
Got it.
So what happens is, and I've seen this so many countless of times over the last decade and a half, what happens is, especially, Chris, back in the teens, and it still goes on now, you'll see these news releases of, hey, this person signed on to star as this character.
Right.
Or, hey, a movie with this character is in the planning stages.
Right.
And what happens is those particular books that have the first appearance of that character or a significant issue of that character will light up and they'll be in high demand right away. Because of the initial excitement.
Yeah, it's a frenzy.
It's a frenzy.
Yep.
So what happens is time and time again, it's proven to be a bad investment strategy. Okay. So back in 2019, this is an example. Marvel announced that Shang-Chi: Legend of the Ten Rings will be, made, right? And if you look at the prices, you'll see that the book was trading, just under $4,000 for that year. Right. And then the movie announcement comes in July, and then you're seeing that $5,700 sale,
right.
and then the $5,200 sale,
right,
and then even a $5,500 sale back in August. So this is the excitement. This is the there's buzz.
Yeah.
And then tons of books, because these aren't scarce books.
No.
tons of books make it to the market because you and I are sitting on our Marvel Special Edition 15.
Right.
And, we're happy with it being worth $3,500.
Sure.
And all of a sudden it's worth $5,500. We go, hey, great time to sell.
Yeah.
And then we all rush it to market and look at what's happening at the end of the year. The book's down to $3,400, $3,100, $3,700, stabilizing back up to around $4,000 where it was at the beginning of the year.
And I imagine that probably by, when it was first announced, so we'll say in May, June, July area, then all of a sudden now people who have the raw copies are getting them graded and getting and flooding the market.
Absolutely. But that doesn't kick in until months later.
Right, but as you say, like months later, now all of a sudden it's a $3,000 book.
Exactly. And the problem with an exercise like this, Chris, too, is that this will happen twice. This happened as the movie was announced. And then it'll happen again 2 years later as the movie's about to be released.
Right.
There's another buzz and excitement around the movie.
Yeah.
So being first to market is responding to a unnatural stimulus in demand that isn't backed up by sustainability in that demand, and it has an adverse effect or an inverse effect on scarcity. It actually will bump up the amount of copies available on the marketplace, and even in general, like you say, people sending them down. So tip number 10, please do not be first to market when you buy.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. Tip number 9. Know the daunting economics of investing in comics. Now, please stick with me on this one, okay? Be aware that the comic book marketplace offers very poor liquidity. This is not a stock market where it's a bid and ask where you can hit a button and you've sold your items right away. Right? Good books can often take 4 months to get paid out with. So you have to, you're sending them down to an auction. It could be 5 weeks before they hit the auction. It could take 2 weeks for the auction to happen. And then it can take 7 weeks for that auction company to pay you out. Right? And so that's not a liquid asset.
No.
That's a hold and wait type of asset, right?
Sure.
And a lot of things can happen in that interim. When you send it down, it could be a hot market. But by the time it goes to sale, it could cool a bit.
Sure.
Right? So it's tough. Along with poor liquidity too, the marketplace imposes substantial commissions. So all these places will offer, like, say, hey, we'll sell your book for you, but we're we have to charge you 20% commission for our those are our fees.
Sure.
Right? We have cost structure as well. So you have to pay into that machine.
They got to make some money somehow.
Yeah. And we also have to look at the upfront cost of buying the comic book. When we win that book on an auction for $500, it's not $500. We might have to pay shipping. We may have to pay, if you're in Canada, you might have to pay duty. Actually, Americans are paying duty now too. So that may actually be $600.
Right,
not
absolutely.
$500, right? And so you're looking at, you have to be honest with yourself and what's the true cost of you getting that book, all things considered. And what is the net of you getting a return.
Sure.
Factoring in, you have to maybe ship the item down to the auction place. You have to pay the commission to the auction place. So it's not just, hey, I bought it for $500, I sold it for $600. That math doesn't go your way.
No.
Because if it was that, then you would have lost money.
Right.
So, understand that you have to kind of keep a really good tight ledger if you're investing in comics. And you have to show all true costs when you're buying and all true costs when you're selling.
Sure, absolutely, yep.
I think that's clear.
I think it's very clear.
Okay, let's move on to number 8.
Number 8.
Okay, be careful or exploit nostalgia cycles.
Nostalgia cycles.
Now, you know what a nostalgia cycle is.
I do, yes, but I don't know if our listeners do.
Okay, well, if you're planning a long-term investment, like if you're a younger person and you want to hold a comic as an investment, that's great. You have to ask yourself whether that investment that you're putting your money into is part of a nostalgia cycle. And I'll give you a great nostalgia cycles we've gone through already. Do you remember about in the knots? Is that what you call those years?
The aughts.
Aughts,
Yeah.
2002 to 2010 or whatever.
Yeah.
There was a huge nostalgia cycle around all those 80s properties.
Right.
He-Man,
Yeah.
Transformers, G.I. Joe,
Yeah, yeah.
all those things that were coming out at that time. Because those people that were buying them as kids were now in their 30s.
Right.
And that's when nostalgia cycles hit.
They have some more disposable income.
They got a good job. Maybe they're married. Maybe they
Yeah.
have kids. Maybe they're harking back to those good old days, and they're chasing their childhood and their youth.
Yeah.
That's basically when a nostalgia cycle kind of boils down to.
Right.
So you have to ask yourself, are we entering into the nostalgia cycle? I would say the nostalgia cycle lasts about 20, 25 years at the most.
Right.
Right. So you're looking at a person, most collectors start divesting around when they're 60,
Right.
into
right,
their 60s
right.
and
Yep,
stuff like
yep.
that. So are you at the beginning of a nostalgia cycle?
Right.
Are you nearing the end of a nostalgia cycle?
Yeah.
So the hard question is, if you're nearing the end of the nostalgia cycle, will that property survive the nostalgia cycle? Because then it needs the new crop, the kids.
It needs another 20 years.
Right, but
Yeah.
you need them to buy in.
Yeah.
You and I are huge fans of the Flintstones.
Sure.
They did not survive the jump into the next generation.
They did not.
No, Simpsons came along.
Yeah.
Kids loved the Simpsons.
Yeah. But then Family Guy came along.
Family Guy came along, and the Flintstones were kind of long forgotten.
Yeah.
Right? And so here you have, in the 70s, one of the biggest cartoon properties in
Sure.
the world.
Yeah.
Pretty well irrelevant now.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you were investing big money in, say, the first Flintstones appearance in a comic book, which is worth good money.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not worth the money it would be worth if it was a relevant property.
Right.
Right? With
Right.
massive demand for products and appeal.
Sure.
Right? So nostalgia cycles are tricky. What are other ones? He-Man, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if He-Man is surviving as
the
a new property.
He-Man, there's a bunch of properties like He-Man, Gem and the Holograms, a number of those kind of 80s properties that came out, haven't really made a big resurgence. But people are really trying to
right. Well, the people that own it,
like there's
hard.
a He-Man movie in the works.
Yeah.
They tried a Gem and the Holograms movie that didn't really work out so well. But there are some properties like, say, Scooby-Doo that last. It doesn't really matter. People still love them.
The important point is this: that there are properties that are almost eternal.
Yep.
Batman.
Yep.
Right? That's like 4 generations now. Every generation loves it. But then there are properties that were, the number one property in the world before, but now is almost next to irrelevant. Say like a Mickey Mouse.
Sure.
Or a Donald Duck even, right?
Yep.
So it's important to know this going in. Not everything will last forever. And you got to ask yourself, will this property that I'm investing in be an evergreen? Or will it be a generational thing?
Yeah.
Okay, tough questions.
Tough question.
All right.
Okay.
Let's move on to number 7.
Yep.
Is your investment book drawn by a famous artist?
Right.
Right.
Now, there are a lot of people out there that collect particular artists.
Yes.
Right.
A lot of, and then what we're looking for is something to drive demand. Remember, this is a checklist. So if we just noted these 10 items that I have down as a checklist, hey, if you can check off famous artist, high demand artist,
right?
You're good.
Yeah.
Right. Now, artists again, it's almost like nostalgia cycles. Artists could be of a time.
Yeah.
So you gotta. I'm gonna say an artist like Frank Frazetta, an artist like Matt Baker. Those artists will, be in demand forever,
right?
Based on just the quality of their work.
Sure.
But I there's no disrespect here at all. I don't know the answer. I'm hoping the answer is yes, he will be relevant as well all the time. But somebody like a Jim Lee,
right,
had this, or Todd McFarlane.
Yeah,
they had their era and their generation.
Yeah.
Will Todd McFarlane's art transfer over?
Yeah.
or will it be, oh, that was way too much and kind of go out of favor, right?
Well, look at a guy like Rob Liefeld. You
Right.
know, when he first came out, everybody loved his art.
Right.
And then there was sort of a backlash, but now there's still people that really still love his art. So it kind of comes and goes, right?
Rob Liefeld is like the disco of comic book art.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
When disco came out, everybody loved it, and then people realized, oh my God, I'm not supposed to like this.
Right.
So then everybody hated it.
That's
but
right.
then now everybody secretly likes it.
That's right.
So that's kind of where Liefeld
That is exactly it.
Attaboy, Rob.
Yeah.
You keep doing good work. Yeah, so famous artists is something to consider when, and let's say name a few more, like Neil Adams, Jim Steranko.
Yep.
You know, if you could add that to your collectible as, hey, this was drawn by one of the important artists in history.
The all-time greats.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to number 6, understanding scarcity.
Okay.
All right.
Isn't that easy? If there's fewer of them, it's going to be worth more.
See, Chris has got it on head. Hey, let's move on to number 5. No, I want to spend some time on understanding scarcity, Chris. It's a very important value driver, and there's many levels to explore.
Right.
Okay? The most important being the book's actual scarcity.
Right.
Right? If there are only 37 copies of some book, then that's a really scarce book.
Sure.
Right? And if it's a high demand issue, like, I don't know, Action 1 or something like that, and you have one of the most in-demand comics is one of the rarest comics, and then you have millions of dollars.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, I mean, you know, if I drew a comic, you know, and printed it and had made 2 copies of it,
right,
super scarce.
Right, super scarce.
Super scarce.
But not as scarce as the people that want it.
not much in demand.
Right.
Yeah.
The buyers are even scarcer.
That is very true.
Right. So, you know, a quick, good example of that is, let's say, an Action Comics #1, the first appearance of Superman. You get a super high grade copy, and that'll go for multiple millions.
Right.
I think the last one went for 6 million, but 4 million, 5 million, whatever.
Yeah.
But you get one that's like a 1.0,
Yeah.
like it's complete. It has the cover. It has everything like that. Chris, that could go for 400,000.
Easy.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there's that absolute scarcity. Now, you take a grail like Amazing Fantasy #15, the first appearance of Spiderman. Well, at the highest grade, 9.6.
Yeah.
As we're taping this, I think there was 4 copies.
Okay.
So that is a super scarce, high demand book in that grade. And that'll command $3 million.
Right.
Right. But a 1.0, all of a sudden you have a couple thousand copies available.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So that 1.0 can be bought for, you know, you and I can sell our what do you call it? Beanie Baby collection, and make a play at that for $10,000-$12,000 or whatever it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of you know, you're taking. That's another example of scarcity of grade.
Yeah.
Actually, it's another example of a type of scarcity.
Right.
Scarcity of grade.
Right.
So, you know, pure scarcity when you're talking about Action Comics #1. So they all are worth money.
Yeah.
But then scarcity of grade when you're talking like a book about Amazing Fantasy #15, where you know, the 1.0 is like literally worth 1% of the 9.6.
Yeah.
Right. And that scarcity of grade is like a sliding scarcity. Like, Chris, when you get New Mutants #98, for example, the first Deadpool.
Right.
You know, 9.8, which is the standard super duper high grade, oh my God, right? They sell for about $1,000. But there are 9.9s of that book.
Right.
So the people with money, the people that are the real true kind of connoisseurs of collecting that want the high-end items, they're not even interested in the 9.8.
No.
The 9.8 is for the everyday man.
That's right.
Right? The 9.9s are selling for 5 figures.
Right.
Right? And so that's the scarcity of grade coming into play.
Yep. Okay.
So, so a lot to understand in scarcity. And I would just be careful, like Chris said, when a book isn't in demand. You know, the easiest way for us to measure scarcity is the CGC census.
Right.
Now, I trust the CGC census to a degree the most on the super high valued items.
Right.
Right, like your Action 1s. Of course, there are still raw copies of Action 1 and Detective 27
Sure.
and Amazing Fantasy 15 out there. But generally speaking, the desire or the need or the utility of sending it down to get graded is high if you have one.
Right.
Whereas, you know, you and I may have, I don't know, Scooby-Doo number 6.
Yep.
You know, and we love it. We love the cover, and we look and we go, hey, there's only like 14 graded.
Right.
Well, that may be because, you know, it's $200 or $100 if it's graded.
Sure.
Right. And so you got to be careful of using the CGC census as your scarcity loop. If anything, I would use the way you'd kind of extrapolate there is use, let's say Scooby-Doo 1.
Okay.
Right? That's the one that's worth a lot of money.
Right.
So if Scooby-Doo 1 had, again, making up numbers I didn't even check, but if it had 500 graded, but Scooby-Doo number 10 had 48 graded,
Right.
I'm making the assumption that there easily could be 500 number 10s graded as well, right?
Sure.
So you just got to be careful there. All right, so I hope that that covers scarcity well enough. Let's move on.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, number 5, learn the basics of grading.
Now, come on, that's not really important, is it?
Oh, very much so.
Oh,
Very much so. Because the fault of, remember, you're an investor here.
investor.
You're an investor.
Yep.
Okay, so you can't blindly just buy in. When CGC, and I've done this, I happen to, we maybe all know this, where we take a big auction house that has multiple copies of the same book up on a big auction.
Right.
Right? And I've seen many times a 6.0 of a book get more money than the 6.5 copy that's on the same auction.
Right.
Right. So what happens is CGC will have these, I guess, points, like checklists for graders.
Yep.
So that don't really cover all the aesthetics properly.
Right.
Right. So that is a fault of theirs that I'm going to call them out on.
Yep.
If you're going to invest in a high grade copy, wait out a perfectly bound copy.
Yep.
Wait out a white page copy, right? Again, an aesthetic that they don't really factor in enough is the color gloss.
Right.
The depth of the colors. They're looking at the structure of the book.
Right.
They're not looking at the depth of the colors. Because what happened in the old printing processes, Chris, the ink vats would kind of run low.
Sure.
And so the later copies wouldn't be as high gloss as the earlier ones.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So you have to kind of be aware of you have to kind of convince yourself, you're not going to grade it structurally and stuff like that. You're allowing CGC to do that.
Right.
But you are going to take things into account that they don't per se.
Like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, because
Yeah.
they also don't take into account date stamps.
Right.
Right.
Date stamps, grease pencils.
Yeah, grease pencils.
Yeah.
Anything that may have, during the time of selling decades ago, if it was common practice. Even from what I've read, sometimes they do allow little pieces of tape because there were some publishers that also use tape.
Right.
So
right.
depending on the book and depending on what's going on, those kinds of things they don't take into account.
Yeah, I think that this is an important thing for the high-end investors. I remember a gentleman, I won't say his name, but I learned a lot from him way, way long time ago. He was buying for high-end clients.
Right.
And he would be the first guy to tell me, this was maybe 15 years ago. He goes, no. That 9.4 isn't good enough.
Right.
Because it's misbound.
Right.
Right. It's just a little off center. It's not 90 degrees. It's 89.
Right.
And that will matter later.
Sure.
And I always kind of remembered that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, it's something that if you see it by itself, you don't really consider it.
Right.
But if you see it side by side with another,
sure,
it's obvious.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. So let's move on to number 4.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. Educate ourselves and do the research ourselves.
Yep.
Right. Learn how to do market research. Join CGC. The census, which you and I have talked about, is super important.
Absolutely.
The eBay completed items.
Right.
Go Collect. GP Analysis
Yes.
is a site that any serious investor should spend the money on. It's a pay-for-use site, right? But what that site does is it tracks completed sales of CGC comic books. And like pretty well, there's one big seller that doesn't report, but places like eBay, places like Heritage Auctions,
they all report.
They all report
and there's also Cover Price is another one that gets used
a
lot.
Yes, and there are a bunch, right? And I don't think anybody should ever just use the one.
No, absolutely not. Because the problem is that you look at one, and one may have your I don't know, your Amazing Spider-Man 300 listed at $8,000, and then another one will have it listed at $7,000. Right. So which one do you believe? Well, it gives you a range.
Right. Yeah.
But
I mean, you'd panic if one listed it at 8,000 and one listed it at 1,500.
Sure, absolutely.
But it almost reassures you when one listed at 8 and one listed at 7 that you're kind of in the ballpark.
That's right. Yeah.
And so for a site like GP Analysis, do not be lazy. When you go to GP Analysis and we call it in the industry reading the tea leaves.
Yep.
Right? You don't just go, I have an 8.0 of this Spider-Man number 50. I'm going to look, the last sale was this much.
Right.
Right? Well, you can hit that bar and it'll take you through every sale of that book this year. It'll take you through every sale of that book the last 20 years.
Right.
Right? But then you also have to look at the 8.5, what it's selling for, the 7.5, what it's selling for, the 7.0, what it's selling for, because those could be barometers as well. If your 8.0 sold for, let's make up numbers, $2,000 back in March, but there's an 8.5 that just sold this month, and that went for $2,100 or $1,900.
Right.
That should tell you, wait a minute, the market's sliding a bit. I shouldn't expect $2,000 for my lower grade than the one that just sold.
Right. Also, I'm going to add to that. Sometimes you'll look at those numbers, and if you look, you can look at the last sale of, let's say $50, and then you look at the two sales before that were $100. So all of a sudden, but then the sales before that were back to $50 again.
Right.
So you're like, okay, maybe there was an anomaly in there for like that month that maybe people were spending a little bit more money.
Absolutely. Well, remember we talked about liquidity before?
Yeah.
This is an important one. This is tea leaf reading. Okay. And then you never know, but you kind of can sense. An auction house is liquidity. You're going to get money for it, but you're going to take what the market will bear at that moment. Right? So if you're looking at a book, like, say, that Amazing Spider-Man 50, and there's been 5 sales of an 8.0 this year, and let's just, again, they might even be nowhere near close to reality, but let's just say one went for 1854, one went for 1911, one went for 1946, one went for 2018, and one went for $24.99. Right? Well, right away, $24.99 kind of looks like a buy it now price.
Right.
So, and it looks a lot higher than the other ones that are sporadically priced.
Right.
Now, buy it now prices generally will be higher than auction prices because the seller is waiting their price out.
Right.
And I've had many people come to me and say, "Hey, Walt, can you get me $2,500? The last one sold for $2,500." And I look and I see that the average probably is around $2,100 or $1,900. I go, I can't. We can do, because what you can do is you can put 600-700 books up on Buy It Nows, and you might sell 2 or 3 a week at that exaggerated price, just because it's like a fly in a spider web. Somebody's going to fly into it randomly and say, I need that issue, and I'll overpay 15% of market just to have it.
Or they've had a few too many whiskeys that night.
We know a few boys like
people
that.
Like that.
Right? Oh, I can't believe I bought that.
Why did I do that?
I got to stop drinking. Right? But so that's reading the tea leaves. That's doing your research. That's breaking down. Another one, Chris, while we're on it, these are important things. When you go on that GPA and you go into that, there's a link to that last sale. Every one, there's a link. And sometimes that $2,400 sale, you click on it, it'll say white pages.
Right.
And then right below it, you'll see a $2,100 or a $1,900 sale. You click on that. That may say cream to off-white pages.
Right.
The market hates cream to off-white pages.
Right.
But if you don't dig into the data enough, you're just going to see, well, one sold for $2,000, one sold for $2,400. I
should get $2,400.
Right. Meanwhile, you have a cream to off-white copy. Right.
Yeah.
So learning market, and listen, we can honestly spend market research for another hour, but you have the assets, you have the tools. You just have to go do a deep dive and learn as much as you can on how to read data, how to assess what the current market for the thing is.
Yep.
And then you're throwing in the crystal ball on the future of that property and stuff like that. Okay, let's leave that one alone.
Yep.
Let's move on to number 3.
All right.
Cover-driven values.
Oh, we know about this.
Yes, we do.
We've been preaching this for years now.
Yes, we have. Now, one of the most exciting parts of the marketplace right now, and probably one of the growth areas of investing in comics, is the cover-driven value ones. For years, for decades, and still up until today, the number one driver of value is first appearances.
Sure.
That trumps everything else.
Yeah.
I have the comic that has the first appearance of Spiderman in it.
Right.
I have the comic that has the first appearance of Deadpool in
Yep.
it. I have the comic, that kind of stuff. That is going to be the number one driver of value.
Right.
Okay. And it used to be things like artists and even like price variance. But covers used to be like such a distant second or third, maybe even. But now they're like the dominant second.
Right.
Like and it's obviously took 2 decades, but when you think about CGC encapsulating a comic book, it turns into a postcard.
Right.
You have the front and the back.
Right.
The inside is almost irrelevant.
Correct.
You're just kind of know instinctively, inside it's the story of Spider-Man's origin.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But, for all intents and purposes, it goes on a wall. It's the cover that you're looking at. Right?
Yep.
So you take, look at our pictures here, Suspense Comics number 3, the classic Alex Schomburg cover. That's probably the most coveted cover in comics.
Sure.
More coveted than Action 1.
Absolutely.
Action 1 is more coveted because it's the first Superman.
Right.
Detective 1 is 27 is more coveted because it's the first Batman.
Right.
But just based on cover alone, I'm buying it for the cover.
Yep.
Suspense 3 is probably the apex book.
Has to be number 1.
Right.
Yeah.
Silver Surfer number 4. Black Cat Mystery number 50. Spirit number 22 are just examples of books that are cover-driven value. That Black Cat 50 just has some sort of, pre-code horror story in it, like all of them have. Right. But that cover with the iridium
fantastic.
bar, and his face melting.
Absolutely.
It's like, okay, I gotta have that.
Gotta have
cover,
this one. Yeah.
In the Good Girl Art section, the Spirit 22, the classic Will Eisner Femme Fatale.
Yeah.
Everybody wants that cover.
Yep.
Right. So the exciting part about cover-driven value is that I think the position I'm holding as I'm recording, as you and I are recording this right now, is that that's still a growth section of the marketplace, right?
Right.
Now, I'm going to ask you, Chris. Now, you and I are both Archie fans.
Yes, absolutely.
And I would say we were Archie fans 20 years ago.
Yep.
And I'm just going to randomly say, I think 20 years ago, people were looking for 20 to 30 Archie covers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think now it's like 200 Archie covers.
Easy, yeah, for sure.
Do you know what I mean?
There are so many Archie covers out there because they're keying into just the cover.
Right.
I mean, look, the insides of all of those Archies are pretty much the same.
Right.
But the covers are what drives them.
Right.
And now there's more and more all the time that are being found that people have now got an interest in that now they need to have in their collection.
Right. And I think this is the best way to finish the covers section is you're going to discover values in a cover when you see a comic book for the first time, maybe you've ever seen one, and you say, I gotta own that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I've never seen this cover before, and there's tons of comics we've never seen before.
Sure.
But every 30th or 50th one will be, oh my God,
Yeah.
I gotta have a copy of that.
Well, and it's funny, like, and not to toot our own horns, but you and I have been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
We've been in the industry for a long time.
Yeah.
And there are still hundreds, if not thousands of covers we've never seen.
That's the exciting part.
Yeah.
So the mandate to you out there is to go. Well, in the comments field, we'd love to hear some great covers that you think are on the up and up, so to speak.
Absolutely.
We're looking forward to your comments there. All right, Chris, let's move on to number 2.
Okay.
First appearance driven values.
Right.
Okay. We have to touch on that. We touched on it before, but it is the number one driver still. You can't ignore it. My recommendation is if they can be on the cover as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There are great examples where Spider-Man number 50, Amazing Spider-Man number 50. It's got a classic cover to begin with, but for the wrong reason.
Right.
Right. Amazing Spider-Man number 50 is a high demand book for multiple reasons. One is it's the first appearance of Kingpin,
Right.
who's a major villain of Spider-Man, of Daredevils in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
Right. But number 2, it has this iconic cover that is, almost like, it takes on a life of its own.
Absolutely.
Right? And it doesn't have Kingpin on it.
No.
Right. But if you take a character and when something hits, when an announcement happens, when something news related thing or whatever, the first thing that pops is the first appearance
Right.
of that comic.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Everybody diverts back. Okay, let's in a rush. Hey, where'd they first appear in?
Sure.
Right. I remember when there was an Avengers movie or something like that. It was back in 2013, 14, 15. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Right. And at one of those Easter bunnies, what do you call it at the end?
Easter eggs.
Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Easter eggs.
Or the
At the end of the
yeah,
credits.
the end credit scene.
Okay, end credit scene. They had a bunch of superheroes. They were kind of prisoners, and they were captured by the Collector.
Right.
If you remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Collector. And the Collector's a minor character.
Sure.
But then they go, the next day, everybody was going, well, what's the first appearance of the Collector? And it's like Avengers number 28 or something like that, right? It's like all of a sudden that book became huge.
Became hot.
Yeah. So first appearances are important, super important. They're the most important thing. Have them on the cover if you can. And then go back retro and ask yourself those questions about nostalgia cycles. Ask yourself those questions about whether this character will carry on into the next generation of kids.
Right.
Is this character transferable to the young?
Sure.
That kind of stuff. So, all right. Before we get to number 1, Chris, let's tell everybody to hit that like button,
Okay.
hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. Chris and I are on a subscription mission. So if you can hit that subscribe, it would help us out a lot. And we're always looking for your comments down in the bottom. All right, let's hit number 1. The number one thing to consider when investing in comics.
Drum roll, please.
Collecting versus investing.
It's a tough one.
Know what you're doing here. Your brain and your heart are 2 different things.
Yeah.
Remember, you can be a collector.
Yep.
You can be an investor.
Yep.
And you can be both.
Sure.
Right? Don't let anybody tell you, collect what you want because it's fun.
Right.
Of course you can do that.
Sure, of course you can.
But you can also play the investor.
You can try, yeah.
You can try.
Yeah.
If it's something you have a bit of disposable income, you want to do some day trading,
Yeah.
so to speak. You love comics, you understand the hobby,
Yeah.
you understand the heroes, you understand that marketplace, and you're going to now go out and throw a little bit of money down on some items that you think will appreciate and value.
Yep.
Do that with your brain.
Yep.
Don't do that with your heart.
No, it's so hard. I find it's really difficult. I mean, I have always been a collector.
Right.
I am an investor as well.
Right.
But I find what I collect I don't want to sell.
Right.
So that's my problem.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
I don't mind buying them even as an investor or a collector.
Right.
But then once the time comes to sell, because there's been lots of times I missed the boat on selling.
Yep.
And a comic that went from I bought it at say $500 went to $8,000, but I didn't want to sell it, and now it's back down to $3,000.
Right.
So
right.
I still make a little bit of money.
Sure.
However, I could have made a lot of money.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So-
If you played the investing game. But for that part, don't knock yourself for that. I think we all fell victim to that spike of the pandemic spike
right.
of 2021, 2022. That was an anomaly that we all should have kind of realized at the moment.
Yeah.
Right? Technically speaking, every one of us should have sold our collection completely
And restarted.
and then restarted this year and have the same books at 60%, whatever.
Yep.
If maybe even less.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
Is not a thing. But I think again, the number one thing is to when you're out there, you can play this game. This game is a fun game. If you have disposable income, there's nothing wrong with investing in comics.
Right.
Of course, you and I have championed collecting from day one.
Sure.
Right? We love collecting.
Yep.
You
Absolutely.
and I collect.
Absolutely.
But I also try to invest.
Yeah.
And I don't make great decisions all the time. And then you got to ask yourself, okay, was I wishful thinking there? Did I think with my heart? Did I love that book, or did
Absolutely.
I love that character?
Yeah.
I can't project my love of that onto the marketplace.
Sure.
I got to do some research.
Yeah.
I gotta weigh it with a little bit more critique.
Right.
When I'm putting good money down on something.
Yeah.
Right. So I hope I think that wraps up our top 10.
I think
Chris.
so. Yeah.
Remember, these aren't obviously the only 10. There's tons more to discuss. But for now, if you can kind of go through these 10 and say, hey, I get that, I get that, I get that. Or, hey, if you pick up a book and go, hey, this falls into 6 or 7 of those things on in this video, the odds are
You'll be better off.
you'll be better off.
Yeah.
All right. We hope you enjoyed the video. Please add some comments, and please remember that these videos are brought to us by Ice Collectibles. Please visit icecollectibles.com, Canada's best place to sell your collectibles.
And have yourself a great day.